Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Ole! Ha! Yes. Welcome back, everybody, to the Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lino Martinez. Wow, what an honor it has been to be a platform for so many people, especially with stories like these, the ones that you're about to listen and tune in and tap tap in and get turned on because these next two stories are true life stories, coming out stories. The first story we're going to listen to is an interview with Coach Lee Hopkins, who has previously been on my show before. And this time he's going to be sharing his coming out story. Next will be followed by Lisa Sugarman, who's also previously been on a Little Less Fear podcast, but this time Lisa is going to be sharing her coming out story. She is a cis pansexual woman married to a man, and she's going to be telling her incredible story. Coach Lee Hopkins is a trans man, and he's also going to be sharing his story. If you also tune in a couple weeks, I will be sharing my coming out story at the end of the month. And there are people that want to know my story, and it's also on my podcast. If you're curious to know the very, 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 very first podcast episode that I posted, it's called "I Am Transgender," and that was over 90 something episodes ago. So I'm continuing here, going forth with the support and the love and the blessings that I receive from people. And the only thing that I can do, the best thing that I can do, is give it back to you. Um, because I love it. Because I love it. I love what I do, and I love what I do because it's part of my journey, and it's helping me grow, motivate others, stay motivated, and just continue on with life. So please, round of applause or shake of the palms for your two next interviews with Lee Hopkins and Lisa Sugarman. Tune in. This is a longer episode. There's two interviews, about 30 minutes each. So hold on to your hats and glasses, and thank you very much. Happy LGBTQIA month, everybody. June 2022. Love you all very much. Thank you so much. Welcome back, everybody, to the Little Less Fear podcast, and happy Pride Month, LGBTQIA, and all the other identifications that I'm not able to say because I don't know them all by heart, actually. But anyways, I'd like to welcome Lee Hopkins, and this is actually my second time interviewing him. We get along great. He's an amazing coach as well. But for the sake of coming out series, he is an incredible human being, and he has volunteered to tell us his coming out story. Keep in mind that all of our stories here are to motivate others. And if others are feeling alone and they have got questions about their identity or where they might fit into the spectrum, hopefully some of this can enlighten some of these people or whoever, the individuals that have some questions. And you can also email us and we'll give you that information at the end. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast. Welcome back, Lee Hopkins.
Thank you so much, Lino. Man, that's such a great introduction. I'm blushing over here. Like, I'm an overall great human being. I think it's
Well,
really
absolutely. I mean, we're all here to make a difference in the world and to help uplift people and humanity. So thanks so much for the work that you do.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be back. I'm so glad to share my story too.
Yeah, so tell us about how it all began with you. How old were you when you questioned or knew or felt that something was not the quote unquote norm?
Yeah, the quote unquote norm. So I'd like to take it back to, I know a lot of people think about their gender and stuff a lot younger these days, but I think I was in my teens when I started thinking about sexuality. So I'm a trans man, and I presented as a trans man up until my I presented as female up until my early 30s.
Okay.
Because I didn't really have the language or the understanding of what it was to be trans, what that looked like, or anything like that. What was I feeling and experiencing? So I know that for myself, I talk about how I came out as a lesbian first, before I've come out as trans, because I know those things are exclusive, are mutually exclusive. Like
Right.
people who are trans men aren't necessarily attracted to women; they're attracted to men or other people on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So I want to come out and tell you about my story as a lesbian first,
Yeah.
because that's probably what I knew that I was
Time.
experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah. So this was in the 90s. And man, that seems so far ago, but
Yeah.
it was in the 90s. And my experience was that I kind of grew up being a loner and distant and not really connected with people, not understanding like what it was about, the women, the girls around that were attracted to men or attracted to boys rather.
Mm.
I'm like, that's not really what I like. I'm not really interested in that. And I think women are kind of cool, but that's pretty much it. That's pretty much as far as I took it, because I didn't I grew up in a household where that stuff was really taboo, and talking about sexuality wasn't even anything we really talked about as well, like being attracted to people. That wasn't even something we talked about, and I didn't really know. All I saw was that on TV it's bad, and I didn't see it in the neighborhood. I didn't see any other representation of it. I just knew that I wasn't the same in talking about boys as my other friends were. Instead, I wanted to kind of run with the boys. I wanted to play with them. I wanted to jump and climb trees and be a tomboy. That was my jam. And I just thought, well, all right,
That's what
that's
felt
who I
comfortable
am.
for you.
What's that?
That's what felt comfortable for you.
Yeah, that's what felt comfortable for me, is to do those things and be that way. And again, it's not mutually exclusive. That personality trait, this
Right.
thing that I'm running around doing things that are quote masculine, doesn't mean that I'm going to be a trans person. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be a lesbian. It just came up as this is what I feel, and I didn't really start acting upon this until I moved away and went to college. I'll never forget, like one of the first days I was there at college, I have this idea that I'm supposed to be attracted to men. I'm supposed to be attracted to men. I need to find a boyfriend or something along those lines, because that's what you do. That's what people did in my
That's what you do
neighborhood.
when you're female, right?
Yeah, that's what you do. And so I'm walking around on campus, and I grew up in a small town in Ohio. So in campus, it seems to be huge. There are people from different states all over my state. And I'm just like enamored. And I'll never forget, I'm walking through the student union, and I see a woman coming at me with low cleavage, and I did a double take. This was completely involuntary. I was just like, ooh, whoa.
Yeah, right. What was that?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Yeah, right.
What the heck happened? So I was like doubling down on this fact that, oh, that was wrong, and I need to find a boyfriend. I need to do something about whatever that was and never do it again. And I tried to repress that. So a couple of years later, so I'm discovering myself in my early teens, right? Mid-teens, I'm discovering that, oh, this might be something that I'm feeling. But in my 20s, I really like decide that, well, there's been way too many double takes, and I'm way too attracted to not even just try. Like, what's going to happen if I
Right.
if I try, and what is going to happen if I like it? I don't know, because I don't really like this thing with guys. It's okay, but I don't really like it. So I go and I start dating women, finding people online like Yahoo chat.
Yeah.
That might be something that people can't relate to today, but it's like
I remember Yahoo Chat. Yeah.
yeah.
The chat rooms. Yeah.
Go in the chat rooms and you just kind of put out your age, sex, and location and
Yeah,
hope
that was
people
fun
will
actually. I
respond.
enjoyed doing that stuff back then.
Oh yeah.
It was exciting. It was like, oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I met a couple people and I made some connections. And the first woman that I dated was absolutely interesting. Interesting. She was more of a tomboy than I was. She was about 6'2", and
Wow.
she was, yeah. And mm, she and I, we had a nice connection. And I was like, oh, I really like this. And if I can be candid,
You could be as
I,
candid as natural as you can be.
okay. Well, the sex was different and it was much better. So I was like, wow, what? Wow, this is great.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. This feels right. Like the sex with men really didn't feel like it was all about me, or didn't feel like, I guess I just wasn't into it emotionally, you know? And so I was like, yeah, this is what I want. So then at that point in time, about my 20s, 22, and I started kind of sharing this information with my family, and they didn't like it. They're like, men and women belong together, and I need to find a man and be with men. But after that, I just started dating women because that was what I wanted. That was what felt right to me, and that's what I enjoyed. So I considered myself a lesbian in the mid 20s. So that's where my coming out story came to be. And if I was away from home, so I had more flexibility to do what I wanted to do. I was financially, emotionally, and physically independent.
Hmm.
I wasn't home. I didn't have to put up with anything like threats or people snooping in my business. I had enough distance between me. I had enough space, physically, emotionally, financially, that I could go experiment and do what I want. And I understand it's tougher when you're not able to do that, when you're living
Oh
at
yeah,
home
it's a
and you
lot
want to
tougher
date
for
someone.
sure. Right.
Yeah. So my life continued that way. And that was one of the things that really helped me grow and come out. So I'm continuing on. I'm still feeling this alongside of this discovery that I like women and I want to date women. I want to be with women. I'm feeling also that there's something that's not right about me in this relationship. And I feel like, well, I can provide more. I can do more, quote, masculine things. I want to do more masculine things. And I can't do them because I don't have the right body to do them. Not because of what society says you need to be a provider, you need to do this, you need to be emotionally supportive, all those things. Not because of that. It's because physically I'm feeling like this isn't right. I have breasts and I hate them. I don't
Right.
like this. I don't like this. I don't think this is right for me. It doesn't fit. I'm looking at my body and there's dysmorphia all over.
Yeah.
And I don't like the interactions that I'm having with other men because I'm thinking that, well, I understand what your experiences are, but I don't. I
Right.
don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't. And I want to connect to that. I want to be seen as them. I want to be seen as connected with them on a level that I wasn't able to be connected with before. And I didn't have the language for it. I didn't know what this was. I didn't know what I was experiencing. But I recall dating someone who was um, about 10 years older than me, dating a woman who was about 10 years older than me. So we fast forward to my late 20s. So I'm dating women and I'm still kind of not sure about what this trans thing is.
Right.
Never even actually understand the language behind it in my late 20s. So they present to me something called The Secret, which is
A book.
a book. Yeah, we watched the video. We watched the
Yeah.
video on it. Yeah. And it's basically, you manifest your life, you manifest your experiences
Hmm.
based
The law of
on
attraction.
what
Yeah.
the law of attraction. Yeah. And so with her, I spent a lot of time on Facebook and just connecting with her that way. And I saw a picture of a woman who was uh, naked. Essentially, she was looking in the mirror, well, top half. And you can't see the front of her, but you can see her reflection in the mirror, and the reflection in the mirror was a man. So it was her being trans. And I was like, that, I don't know what it is, but that
That
right
makes
there.
sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me right there. And I'll never forget that picture, but I didn't have the words to it, but the manifestation, I kind of saw it and I'm like, okay, yeah, where is this showing up and how is it showing up in my life? And like, what else makes sense about this to me? If I can reflect back on it, what else makes sense to me? And it was then that I still didn't have the language for it, but I knew what I was looking at. It
Hmm.
made sense. So after our relationship ended, I had an opportunity to move to Chicago. And there in Chicago, it was around the time that Caitlyn Jenner was coming out.
Yeah.
And people were like understanding what trans was. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. And by the way, I said something along the lines like, she doesn't even look like she's a trans person. And I'm like, I know that's highly offensive, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know what that is with
Right.
her. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so there I got the language. I found the queer people who had the language to help me understand what's going on with me and what does it mean to be trans, and how it's not really a, doesn't even have to be a physical manifestation or a surgical manifestation of it. It's just like a deeper meaning of how you feel inside. And I'm like, oh, all this stuff. I didn't know. I didn't know. Now I have all the language and I have all the support and I have all the things that I want to do to make myself um, be the person that I thought I should be the person I felt I was inside, be that woman who was looking at that man in the mirror and seeing like, this is it. So in Chicago, I basically hit the ground running. It's about 6 months, and I decide I'm going to transition. I have the job that provides all the tools or provides all the medical care, the time off, everything that I needed, the support actually to make the transition. And I know I've been very fortunate because it was just kind of like I've got the realization and I'm able to put something into action. I got the space from the family or the criticism to be able to feel confident enough to take this risk. And again, I had the same ability when I transitioned from male to female in that experience. And so that's been my experience with transitioning. And we could talk more about how it is to date, what it is to pack, and all those things. If
How long have
this
you
were to
been in
go,
transition now, Lee?
I've transitioned. Let's say it's been 6 years.
6 years. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. You look wonderful too, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
So how is dating now? Now as a trans man?
Sucks. It's just like any other dating. It's just like any other
Right.
dating. Yeah, but it's all about you know being comfortable enough to reveal who you are
Mhm.
to other people. And I realized that I had a problem with not being my authentic self. And I thought, well, stepping into
Right.
to being trans is going to be my authentic self. But then I still have to reveal that to people. I still have to feel comfortable doing that, revealing that to people. And it's been a process to figure out, well, who is safe to reveal this to, who's going to be comfortable with me. And then, when is the right time to do it? Because it's certainly not the right time when we're about to get into bed together.
Right.
And I was like, oh, by the way, and
Exactly.
yeah.
Hmm.
So
So when are
um,
you revealing it right now when you're dating? Do you reveal right away or do you how are you dating? Are you doing it online or are you meeting people at the shop or how are you dating?
I found it's best to do it online. Right now, I found it's best to do it online, especially because of COVID.
Right.
But on OKC, you can just say that you're trans, and people will know before they went to engage. So it does the filtering for you. You don't have to deal with this revelation, like realization that they're not interested in you, although you have a great personality. Because ouch, I mean, we just wasted each other's time here.
Sure.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and so to do it in person though, I try to do it as quickly as possible if I feel like there's some kind of romantic possibility. So if we both know that we're sitting and we have the intention of dating or connecting with each other in that way, then I want to reveal it as soon as I understand that they may be attracted to me or I may be attracted to them. And then because that's a deal breaker. So it's the
Of
best to get it
course.
out of the way
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. So if they're not interested, no harm, no foul. I understand that's how they feel.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And how is that coming along so far? Like being like revealing right away.
Revealing right away, it shows me a lot that people aren't ready.
Hmm.
Either people aren't ready to experiment, because although trans people are known, we're only 1% of the population,
Hmm.
so it feels kind of rare. And I've seen people be disappointed in me too. I never forget this guy. So I was dating women, but presenting as male and still having, I guess, some feminine energy, I guess. So
Sure.
whatever,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so there's a guy who seemed attracted to me, and we're talking, and I just didn't think about us being a couple because I wasn't really attracted to him. I just wanted to be like connected to somebody. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking of a friendship. I want to open up. I want to be
As a human
authentic.
being, yeah.
Yes, I want to be authentic. And his face just kind of went like sad disappointment. And we were sharing a drink together, and he was just like, like he checked out of the conversation completely. He
Mhm.
wasn't interested in talking to me anymore because I think they just wanted to hook up and call it a
Mhm.
day. And I just wasn't interested in that. But I felt more of rejection and disappointment in that way because I revealed myself. And for the people out there who are listening to this, you are going to feel that. And it's okay. You're not going to die. I promise.
Mhm.
I haven't died yet.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
you do, I reframed it to feel like, well, I'm lucky because people, it's self-filtering. I don't have to make too many choices. Things will just kind of move for me. And the people who really want to be with me, I know they really want to be with
Oh
me.
yeah.
Hmm.
So how's it going now? Is it
How's
still, yeah, are you teeter-tottering between online and in person?
um I haven't done much of online because all of it's exhausting.
It
All
is
of it's exhausting.
exhausting.
I'm trying to hold up a great face up here, but man, it is exhausting.
It is.
Like just online dating, there's so much distraction, so much information, so many options that you throw trans on top of it. You like very few people are trying to talk to you in the first place. And then
Right.
when they do, they're distracted. So it's like,
Right.
just give me a break from this.
Sure,
So
sure.
I've definitely taken a break from doing that. I have talked to people outside of like in the real world, and for the most part, I scope them out for friendship first because I'm in it for the long haul. So I'm in my late 30s now.
Mhm.
I'm in it for the long haul, and the kind of connection I want to make with people isn't just a sexual, fun, quick hookup. I
Right.
want to get to know them as a person first and a friendship. And if anything romantic comes out of it, then I can start revealing more about me and my body. Otherwise, I just kind of leave it there. And maybe depending on how deep our friendship goes, I'll reveal more about my body.
Lee, now that you've gone 6 years, thanks for sharing that, by the way. I totally get you with the dating. It's not the
It's
easiest as a trans man, but I don't think
no.
it's easy for anybody actually, especially these days.
Yeah.
But I have a question. How is your relationship now with your family now that you're 6 years into your transition as a trans man?
Well, my family relationship wasn't that great in the first place. Honestly, I'm just so different in so many ways that I'm hard to understand for them. And I'm accepting that. So that's how my relationship is, where we're trying to rebuild this. So I'm working on understanding them
Hmm.
because I've done all this growth. I've had the space to experiment and to learn more about myself and to grow in these ways.
Hmm.
And now I want to look back and see, well, how has that impacted my family?
Right.
Because there's more than one person in this relationship. I have an interpersonal relationship with each one. And my transition impacted them in some way. The fact that I'm different in so many ways they don't understand, I want to go back and see if I can help them understand that. Not compromising who I am, not apologizing for what I've done, but just helping them understand, hey, this is what I've chosen to do. And let me hear how it has impacted you
Right.
so we can be connected. I'm not going to try and change you. I'm not going to try and force you to go
Sure.
um, do things for the LGBTQIA plus community. I'm
Right.
not going to try and get you to change your way, but I would like you to understand me, and I would like to understand you so that we can be connected and we can talk to each other.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
That sounds great.
It's hard.
And
It's
what kind
like,
of advice can you give, Lee, to people who are questioning any at any age? What kind of advice now, having have gone through being a lesbian and experimenting with the spectrum, and then now being a trans man, what kind of advice can you give people who are questioning themselves?
yeah, well, I would say that, so you are questioning, really focus on how you feel, because I firmly believe that our feelings drive a lot of what we do and how we experience the world. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. So if you're feeling like this is something you want to try, but you're unsure of, what's the harm in actually trying for yourself? You can
Right.
do it. You can have this experience and then reflect on how you feel having this experience instead of wondering for years upon years upon years, what if you have
Mm-hmm.
done this thing? Do it, decide if you like it or not. Decide if you don't even have to decide, just like focus on how you feel about it
Right.
and wonder if you want to do it again. Be mindful is, I think, the new term for it. Just be mindful of how you feel and go for it. That's what I would advise.
I love it. Thanks so much for giving me that advice. I will go for it, Lee.
Yeah, it honestly, really quick, I'd like to share with you a quick story about how
Yes.
I was dating women, and I was dating women, dating women, dating women. And then I transitioned, right? I'm a male, and I'm not having much luck with catching lesbians because they're not interested in men. They don't
Right.
want this hairy stuff going on. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
dang, man, maybe I'll try dating men, because men started talking to me.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like, tried that. And you know what? I still didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I did. I wondered if it would be different because I'm a different person. Would it
Right.
be? And then you know what? Later on along the line, I can try it again and I can decide if I like it or not. If this,
Hell yeah, you can, Lee.
yeah, right.
Yeah, this is your life, your body, your happiness, and you get to
Yes,
pave your own way.
yes, right on, right. That's high five,
High
man.
five. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you, Lee?
You can find me at patternsofpossibility.com. I share more of my story and I help coach people make genuine connections.
Are you on social media?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I forget about that because there's so much of it going on. But you can find me at Patterns of Possibility on Instagram, Twitter, and all other social medias. I'm out there.
Patterns of Possibility with
Hmm.
Lee Hopkins, and your pronouns?
My pronouns are he, him, his.
Mr. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Lee Hopkins, thank you so much for your wonderful coming out story on A Little Less Fear podcast. I hope you have a little less fear after this, and I hope our listeners, our viewers, and our watchers also have a little less fear. And if they have any questions, they can reach out to us. Thanks so much for being an awesome guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Loved it.
We'll chat soon. Take care now. Welcome back, everybody, to the Little Less Fear podcast, and happy LGBTQIA month, the month of June 2022. I'd like to welcome Lisa Sugarman, who's going to be sharing her story. Thank you, and welcome to LGBTQIA month of June 2022 on a Little Less Fear podcast, Lisa.
I'm just so ecstatic to be
And
here.
I love your shirt, by the way.
Thank
I
you,
love it.
thank you.
I can't believe I'm wearing complete opposite colors here. For those that are listening and not watching, she's wearing it's a white long sleeve shirt, and right in the middle there's the whole pride colors, and I'm just wearing a black shirt. I'm like, I'm
That's
totally
okay.
missing out.
That's okay. I'm repping for both of us.
Yes, I love it.
For all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, right? All of us, indeed.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I know it takes a lot of courage to share one story, and it's not easy to talk about anything that we've gone through or been through, especially when it comes to sexuality and gender. So I just thank you very much for being open.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. It's actually, I know that we do a lot of hard things in our lives, but for me in particular, this is not a hard thing. This is a welcome opportunity. I mean, I'm a fairly new queer baby. I guess I don't know what the appropriate term is, but this is still very, very new to me. I came out officially just a year ago, not even a year ago. It was toward the very end of Pride Month last year.
Wow.
So I'm still like in that, very deep and complex learning stage where I'm just kind of taking it all in and processing it all through, and having all the conversations that I'm lucky enough to have. So
what kind of conversations are you lucky enough to have?
It's, I guess, because the average person, from what I've come to understand just through reading and just chatting with other people in the community, that I'm 53 years old. I'll be 54 years old. I've been married. We just celebrated, my husband and I just celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary. We've been together
Wow,
for
congratulations.
Thank you. We've been together since we were 17, so we're like
What? Wow.
37 years in at this moment,
Wow.
our relationship. Yeah. And, we have two daughters. We have a 22-year-old, and our oldest will be 25 in a few weeks. So it's, I think, a little bit unusual for a almost 54-year-old married mother of two to come out and say, oh, hey,
Yeah,
by the way, I'm
right.
pansexual and I identify as queer.
That's amazing, Lisa.
So
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I know what you mean. I'm 42, and it's taken me all these years to identify as pansexual recently as well. And I just like all these new terms that actually do make sense with my fluidity.
mhm.
So, well, geez, it's only been about a year for you. Thanks so much for sharing
Yeah.
this.
No, this is entirely my pleasure. I'm just like absolutely thrilled to have um, to have a platform like yours, and to have someone as gracious as you are
Thank you.
to invite me to come on and talk the talk and share my story, because there's, we all have so many different stories to share, and
Right.
I shared another very, very powerful story right here with you on A Little Less Fear
Yes.
several months ago, um, about my dad's suicide,
Right.
and that had its own place and
Right.
importance, and like that, this is also an important conversation, and
Absolutely.
it's through these conversations that we inspire other people to share their own. So
Yes. Thank you. So within the last year, you just came about discovering that pansexual was the best term to identify your coming out story. Do you mind sharing how you discovered this?
yeah, sure. You know what, again, along with, kind of the time period in my life that I came to this point, being so much older than the average person who comes out, I guess, I also came out in a way that I also think is kind of unconventional. It was my daughter that helped me to come out. And it's so interesting
That's
because,
beautiful.
yeah, it's like, honestly, like one of the most beautiful gifts of my life. And before you and I came on today, I was actually writing a piece about that
Wow.
for Pride. So just trying to kind of put that experience into words. And so my oldest, who, as I said, will be 25 later this month, she came out. She's been out of college now for a few years, but she came out when she was going into her junior year of college. She came out to us as bi, and it was just such a beautiful experience. I mean, whenever I do share this part of the story, I say it almost the same way, like that experience for both my husband and myself was such an incredible gift. It was like, that was a defining moment as a mom for me. And I know my husband Dave feels the same way as a dad, but I feel this way as a mom. Like when your child feels that much confidence and support, and um, you know, just feels that sense of calm and relaxation in terms of, this is who I am. And even though I haven't shared it, I know that when I do, it will be met with nothing but love and open-mindedness, and appreciation for sharing that knowledge. And it was, and it completely shocked us. We didn't see it coming. We really did not see it coming at all. And she said it so casually, and I just kind of looked at her. It was like late at night. We were trying to get her to like leave the bedroom because we were tired and we wanted to go to bed,
Yeah.
and she was lingering. And she eventually came out and told us, and we just kind of looked at her like we weren't expecting it, so we didn't
Right.
process it. And she said it again, and I started crying because I'm an empath, and that's what I do, and I cry at all the good things and the bad things. I was crying because I was so overcome with this feeling of joy and gratitude that my child trusted us as much as, see, now I'm getting like even emotional just thinking back to that moment. It was such a beautiful moment as a mom to know that the only reason why she was hesitating and nervous was because she herself had not said it out loud yet.
Oh,
And we were the first ones that she said it out loud to. And so
wow. That takes a lot for her to do that.
it
Wow.
does. It does. And she said, I wasn't nervous telling you guys. She was like, I know that you guys would be like, I love you. Great. Thanks for sharing, which is basically what we said. We were like, thank you for sharing this. I love you even more because you trust us. And, you know, now can you get out of the bedroom? Because I'm really tired and want to go to sleep. So, you know, that her only hesitation was just like, she hadn't said the words out loud. So, that just kind of spun the wheels in a totally different direction in our life, like our family's trajectory, because now all of a sudden we went from a different capacity of being an ally of the LGBTQ community, which we had always been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have so many friends, you know, who are gay or bi or trans, and just couldn't be any more supportive, and have always been. And we started, you know, having all these incredible conversations, she and I, all of us as a family, but she and I in particular, because she was just so excited and inspired. And it was this new community, and she was learning at such a, you know, I mean, she was sponging everything up. And so we would have these great conversations. And of course, you know, I felt kind of naive and a little bit ignorant because, you know, even though I'm a grown and educated adult at that time, and this is going back now like 4 or 5 years, it was like there was gay, there was straight, there was trans, there was bi, and then terms like omnisexual and asexual and pansexual and you know, all of these other newer terms, or at least they were newer to me.
For me too.
Yeah, they're like, I was like, wait, what's the difference between omnisexual and pansexual and bisexual? And so
right,
having these incredibly deep conversations about all of those little nuances and differences. And one day, it was just the two of us, were having breakfast and having coffee. And one day we were talking, and she was trying to explain pansexuality to me because I just couldn't get it. I just wasn't sure what the difference was. And as she's explaining it to me, I think, I mean, it would be interesting for me to ask her what her memory is of my reaction and face when she was telling me, because I was having, like, things were clicking, like all of a sudden connections were being made. And I knew that I had the capacity to be sexually attracted to more than just men. I knew that from, I want to say probably around high school time. I have only ever been with one woman that was it was like decades and decades, way before marriage. You know, kind of during that college phase, we were kind of, you know, experimenting. And
these were all the thoughts that came through you when your daughter came out to you. You just started remembering all of your own experiences.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, I had always been very conscious of those experiences. I had never had the same experiences or the same feelings toward anyone else other than this woman that I had been very, you know, intimate with and close with when I was, you know, when I was younger, and nothing since. I got married and have been married for decades and decades,
right.
But always knew that I had the capacity to love. And it wasn't like I was like out there attracted to like every man and woman around me. It was just, I knew it was there. Exactly. But it's like that thing that you just can't, it's very abstract until you can attach a word to it. And I had never really attached a word to it. And as soon as she like gave me the definition, I was like, I just looked at her and I was like, Riley, I think I'm pansexual. Like, I just like blurted it out. Yeah. And she was like, okay, like, let's figure this out. Let's talk about it. Like, there, you know, and there were certain things that she knew, you know, that I had talked to her about when she came out to us. I had talked to her about experiences that I had, but it wasn't until that conversation where kind of the connections were really kind of officially made. And I was like, okay, because I know it's not just that I'm bisexual. There's something else there. But if you don't have a word, you can't put yourself in not that I want to put myself in a box, because I don't, but I just wanted to have a deeper understanding. And it was like every light inside me went off. And I
know that feeling right on. Yeah.
Yep. And she was amazing. Like, she was in her 20s, you know, she was in her early 20s, and just so incredibly loving and supportive and like proud. That was the thing
I love it.
that was the thing that really struck me the most. She was just like, Mom, I'm so proud of you for saying this out loud, for acknowledging it, for sharing it with me, and then I think, I mean, it was so long ago now that I think I went back and, I talked about it with my husband, and he knew. Like, it was like, it's funny, this thing that I had, like this what I thought, and my friend at the time thought was this very under the radar thing that we had that was just between us. It was like the worst kept secret in the world. Like everybody suspected and knew, and it, we just didn't acknowledge it as that. And went on and married. She's happily married, I'm happily married, and have never I personally, I mean, I can't speak for her, but have never wanted to be with anyone else. And then flash forward from the time that I had that conversation with my daughter, a couple of years go by, and of course I'm out there supporting her and going to Pride with her for the first time, because we're here in Boston. So went to Pride with her for the first time, which was an incredible
so fun,
experience.
isn't it?
Oh my God, it was so incredible.
Everybody's so happy.
Yeah, I know. And so she asked me, she's like, Mom, would you come with me? It's my first time. I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah.
That's awesome. High five.
I am all in. Yeah. So we went, we had the most amazing experience. And
this was in what state? I'm sorry, where at?
This was Boston. It was here in Boston.
Oh, in Boston. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a pretty big deal. And so this was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yep, 2019 is when we went. And of course, haven't been able to go
right before the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So, we went, and it was incredible. And, so I had that conversation. We had continued that conversation with my younger daughter, my husband, and time went on, and pandemics happened. And we found ourselves in Florida last year, and every year during Pride, especially since my daughter came out, I've always wanted to be as vocal as I could be, as a supporter, as an ally, as the parent of a queer child. And so I remember it was last June, it was the end of the month, and I really hadn't put anything out there in the world about Pride yet. And we were visiting family, and we were all in the car together, and I was writing a post. I was going to post something on Facebook or Instagram. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing it from the lens of, and the heart of, an ally, like I always had. And I'm sitting there quietly in the car, and I'm typing on my phone, and all of a sudden it dawns on me, it hit me like a brick right directly to the face. What are you doing? Like, why are you writing this as an ally? You're actually not an ally. You are actually a member of this community. Wow. And why in the hell am I sitting here?
Why are you being third person when you're first?
Why am I being third person? Right. Like, why am I not doing the one thing that I have always preached about in my life and taught my children and encouraged other people to do, which is to be, and I've done it I've done it in every other capacity of my entire life. Like, what you see is what you get. I am who I am. I have always tried in every way that I can be to be just an open and authentic human being. And I'm like, but you're not being, and you need to be. And if nothing else, not because I found someone else in the world that I wanted to be with and I was leaving my husband. No, that's not it. Not because I was questioning things and didn't want to continue doing what I was doing in my life with my relationship. Nope. But it was strictly because this community that has grown so deeply over the years and has come so far will only become less stigmatized when more and more people are like, hey, I'm queer, let's move on. Like, hey,
exactly.
It's this is who I am. Like me, don't like me, that's your choice. Mm-hmm. But I'm coming out and I'm representing this community that is my child's community and that is now my community. And it needs all the representation that it can get in every shape, form, color, you name it, that we need it. So I kind of I got really quiet in the car, and everybody was like, why is Mom getting so cool? Like, what's
going on?
Because I'm always like the one like singing in the car, and they're like, what's up with you? And I kind of like quietly said something to my husband. I said, I think I want to come out like right now. I wanted to just talk to my mom and talk to my in-laws and my like immediate family who didn't already know. And I did that first. And I kind of waited to post something until those conversations happened, and they were all amazing and incredible. And so
Awesome.
they were just like beautiful. Like my mother-in-law.
You're making me tear up here.
Well, my mother-in-law, like my whole family was so incredible the way they embraced my daughter, and my mother and my mother-in-law both had very similar reactions. They both were like, I thank you for sharing. I love you. So what? Big deal. Let's move on. You know, in other words, like, this is not a thing. I love you. Nothing changes. Let's sit down and have dinner. Like, that's what it was. And it was the same way when I came out. So then that night I ended up putting it out there, and just said, hey guys, you know, here I am, but I'm writing this in a different capacity now. This is a different voice. And I hope that you can celebrate it in the same way that I am. And that's my story. And ever since that point, I can't talk about it enough, because I know how many people are out there struggling, how many young people are struggling with gender identity and sexuality. And, you know, I have friends, very dear friends, who are in the trans community who are struggling, and they're like, it's just a terrible time to be trans. And I'm like, no, we have to change that. It can't be.
It's the right time. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I felt like, historically speaking, you know, you think to yourself, like, what's one voice going to do? But then you look back over history and you look at certain voices. One single human being can change the whole trajectory of the world that we live in. And I'm by no means saying that my voice is that voice. I'm just saying that collectively, if we all use our voice, we all share our story, we normalize the things that are stigmatized, and then the stigma just evaporates. So
for people that are tuning in for the first time, could you explain in your own words, or the way that you understand pansexuality?
Sure. So to me, and I know that even being gay or being bisexual or being omni or pan, any one of those distinctions there are commonalities, but it's very different for each human being.
I actually don't know what omnisexual means. Maybe you could educate me too.
I wish I could, because I'm still trying to figure that out. My daughter and I keep having.
I think this is the first time I've heard that, actually.
There are, I wouldn't even want to say what I think it is, because I'm still trying to understand it.
Okay, let's stick with pansexual.
Right way. So, and I don't want to misrepresent anything or anyone, but what I can tell you about pansexuality is, like, the root of that word pan means all. So I mean, that's really in essence what it means. It means that you have the capacity to be sexually attracted to all people, not just where bisexuality means more than one. It doesn't mean men or women. It means more than one person. Pansexuality means I could be attracted to someone who is trans. I could be attracted to someone who is gay. I could be attracted to someone who is bi. I could be attracted to someone who is cis. I mean, like anything. So, and that just means to me that I don't see someone's outer exterior as that draw, or their body parts necessarily.
Yeah, you see more of their spirit, their soul, their light energy.
Exactly. And that's what I, as a human being, am most attracted to. And granted, you know, and there are, you know, there are men that I've been attracted to, women I've been attracted to, trans people I've been attracted to, and those are just, you know, their qualities.
Exactly.
For sure. But for me, it's really kind of that spirit and their essence and their personality. That's what gets me. And so I've always known that I've had that capacity, but there was never, in my world, there was never a word to really define it. And that's why it was just like, you know, such a dramatic moment for me when she explained pansexuality. And look, and sexuality and gender are fluid. And I could come back, you and I could revisit this conversation in 2 years, and it could be something entirely different. But and
it will be.
And it might be. And I love that about sexuality and about our gender. And I'm just delighted at the moment that I'm in this place where I can speak so freely and be so open And I remember being that kid in high school who lived in a community where, people got called gay and queer all the time before we kind of reclaimed the word, and made it not a bad word. That's why I kind of say queer all the time. I say it all the time because I love the word, and I love the fact that it's such a great word now, and it doesn't have that.
Yeah, Lisa, it took me forever to be okay with that word, because I mean, as a kid growing up, we're playing flag football, calling it smear the queer, and it was
that's awful.
It really wasn't a good word back when I was growing up, and it took me a while. It actually took me this podcast interviewing a lot of people that identify as queer, and just how easily they say it. And I was like, whoa, it's really not a big deal. It's really our own pain that we close ourselves in and give it that meaning, but it really doesn't mean that anymore. So it's really a beautiful word. It's a colorful word now.
It is.
It's actually happy.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives me such joy to be able to not only to say that, but to identify as that, especially as a human being who lived in a time like, I have a lot more life experience than in, decades behind me than a lot of the more typical human beings do who are coming out these days. They're, they're younger, and I'm much, much older. So I have that frame of reference where it was like, I remember when I was in school, when I was in high school, I had a gym teacher. She was our basketball coach, actually. And she, looking back now, like she presented in a very typically masculine way. So naturally kids are assholes, and they were.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it always hurt me when I would hear kids in the locker room confronting her. And I remember that she overheard some kids calling her gay. Whether she was or whether she wasn't was never something I actually knew.
Yeah.
But she quit her job because the kids were so cruel to her. And that always stayed with me, that always haunted me. And so I remember when she got called queer, and it was awful. And that's why nowadays, knowing that you can say that, and the connotation is so different and so joyful, that it's a beautiful thing.
It's quite liberating.
Yeah.
How has your relationship changed with yourself since coming out?
I feel so much lighter. I feel so much more energized. I feel truly and completely authentic in the ways that I have always wanted to. And it's funny, I thought I was being living my life intentionally as a very honest and open person. And I realized, and I was, and I do, but there was this space, this one little space,
little gap
where I wasn't. Yeah. And it's, the way that I explain it to people, because a lot of people, we had friends of ours who were reaching out to my husband who were like, are you guys okay? Is everything okay? We saw her post. Are you guys okay? And he's like, yeah, she's pansexual. We are happily married. And, let's move on. We're great.
Yeah.
But, and I get it. I understand that it was definitely a surprise, I think, for a lot of people. Maybe for some people it wasn't at all, but I definitely, the way that I explain it is that I had this thing that was in my pocket for most of my life, like easily since I was a teen, in my pocket. Anytime I put my hand in my pocket, like I felt that thing in there every single time. And I couldn't take it out. And therefore, for all the reasons that you would expect, I couldn't take it out, or chose not to. And finally, at the age of 53, or 52, I made that decision. I was confident enough in myself and my daughter. It was honestly, it was my daughter coming out and her bravery, and that incredible amount of courage. It was all the stuff that I had taught her and my husband had taught her, like not knowing we were teaching her to someday honor her own truth and come out. We were just own who you are, do the things that inspire you. Don't do what doesn't feel right, just in all aspects of your life. little did we know that it would translate to, at one point in time, she would come out and say, well, this part of me is also who I really am. So that was a huge win for us. And I was like, well, how can I continue on in my life knowing this, having this thing in my pocket, feeling it every single day and not taking it out? So I just took it out and I put it around my neck, because that is what it means to be, to me, that's what it means to me, to be truly authentic and open and honest and proud. And I look at myself in the mirror in a very different way. I'm just much more confident, I guess, in myself. And I'm still figuring stuff out. I'm still learning. Like, there's so much to learn. And I'm just like, I can't read enough or hear enough or talk enough, but about it all. But yeah, I guess there's a peacefulness. I guess.
I definitely understand what that feels like. Yeah. Thanks so much, Lisa, for sharing your coming out story. Thanks for telling everybody and being so proud and being such an amazing ally. I'm really happy for you. I'm happy for your family and your daughter and your husband and all the love that vibrates all around you. Thanks so much for being on A Little Less for Your podcast again. I wish you and your family and all your loved ones an incredible LGBTQIA month, and thanks for being an ally.
I thank you right back. And I so appreciate it. Enjoy the month, because I know I will.
I will too. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
We'll keep in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.